Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week, and this is the video on the up and coming new moon in the sign of Sagittarius. If you guys like this content, you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider leaving me a comment below and letting me know how this manifests for you. Love to hear from you guys, and any engagement with the channel really helps it grow, so I appreciate you. And I'm excited to be back. Just like a quick note for you guys. Hopefully you guys had a good holiday over the last week. We are actually the last day today before we have the end of my Cyber Monday kind of Black Friday sales. So it'll be ending on December 5th. So this is the last chance to get a discount of up to $200 on my Astro 301 course. You guys can get hooked up with deals also on my transit calendars. And I only have 2 or 3 of my personal 2026 forecasts left. So if you guys want to check out any of that or specials on my previous Astro courses or my tarot course, click the link below and head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, well, obviously this is going to be quite the new moon, and I'm sure some of you guys are watching this on the full moon in Gemini, but I like to put it out 2 weeks ahead so that way we're prepared. So continue to enjoy that full moon as we get into this new moon kind of topic. And do let me know how this manifests for you guys, because it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, especially for the mutable signs. Anyway, buckle up for this new moon in Sagittarius, because obviously Sagittarius is, mutable fire. This is a sign that is Jupiter based. It's all about kind of going big or going home. And it's kind of like the sign that's the ultimate hype man, I think, for taking bold leaps and anything revolving around truth bombs or, kind of chasing your dreams. And this is a new moon that is not your average reset. It's a very fiery, kind of spicy call, I think, really to focus on, kind of getting into expanding our world, expanding our beliefs, maybe questioning the status quo and saying yes to things that make our hearts kind of expand. Now, obviously, Jupiter is the ruler, so we're going to talk about that. It is retrograde in Cancer, so it means that we're going deep emotionally to kind of fuel our dreams. And I'm expecting a lot of people to have some epiphanies with this new moon, because we're kind of blending this energy of the wanderlust vibes of Sag and also the wisdom that is going to come from some of the squares that we will see to Saturn and Pisces. Perfect timing as 2025 is kind of closing out, and it's closing out with a bang. And this is really going to help us launch into 2026 like the archers that we are. So obviously we have a new moon every month. This is the time where the sun and the moon come into conjunction, and we're planting new seeds. So it's going to be taking place on December 19th, 2025. I'm Central Time here in Texas, so that's going to be happening around 7:43 p.m., but you're going to have to adjust your time zones accordingly. Around 5:43 p.m. Pacific Coast, 8:43 East Coast here in the States. Now, like I said, adjust your time zones. It's happening also right before the solstice, so it's also an interesting kind of reset point. Because we'll see about a day and a half later, we're going to be coming into what will be the new season here in the Northern Hemisphere. We will be welcoming winter. But yeah, just a lot of resets that are going to be going on. I feel like in many ways, this can actually be a new moon that is like a holiday gift. We just won't quite see some of the effects of it until down the road, because a new moon's going to be in play for about 2 to 4 weeks. We'll see the events of that kind of playing out. But then it'll take about 6 months until we get into the full moon in Sag, which will be in Gemini season in 2026. Now, for the signs that are going to be the most impacted, number one, obviously, it's in Sagittarius. So if you have anything, Sag, Sun, Moon, Rising, or a personal planet, 27, 28, 29 degrees, you guys are going to be feeling the effects of this the most, because it's going to be conjunct those particular degrees in your chart. So it's like a reset for you. But equally, 27, 28, 29 degrees of the mutable signs. So Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces, I'm talking to you guys. You're going to be feeling the effects of either the opposition or the square with this one. And I think that, with Sag getting a direct hit, it's very obvious to me that this is going to be about a rebirth for you. Maybe Gemini is going to be feeling more of like a mental buzz with this one. And Virgo is going to get a little bit more of like a practical push. Pisces, this is kind of about you staying in the spiritual flow and kind of navigating some of the changes that's going on. But if you happen to be another sign, just keep in mind, if you have a very mutable heavy chart where you have a lot of planets in these mutable signs, it can affect you as well. And this is where it pays to know your personal astrology. So pull out your chart. We're going to go through the aspects. And if you guys stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll take you through the 12 rising signs and talk about how this kind of new moon is manifesting, what you want to focus on, and what you might experience under this lunation. Now, obviously, astrologically, new moons kind of equate to a fresh new chapter. So we're kind of hitting the reset button in the Sagittarius area of our charts. I think that, this is kind of like a seed that's being planted that is really asking us, what are our intentions going to be going into the new year? You may see this kind of manifest between now and, like I said, June of next year. We might see some pivotal kind of plot points also in March. And these new seeds are going to be sprouting over the next 6 months' time. But this new moon has like a quiet power to it. I feel like there's a lot of manifestational qualities that can kind of come up. Obviously, it's ruled by Jupiter. And it's really going to be spotlighting or kind of inviting you to dream unfiltered and release maybe what's been kind of like dimming your glow. Now, astrologically, Sagittarius, like I said, obviously mutable fire. It's the 9th sign of the Zodiac. This is the eternal optimist, right? So this is a sign that is known for its, philosophy. It's known for its good humor. It's known for its wisdom. And that fire energy really kind of embodies adventure. It's about truth. This is also connected to higher learning, maybe ethics, and knowing and believing that the universe has your back. I think if there's any one takeaway from this particular new moon, it would be that. I think the vibe of Sagittarius is kind of fun. We see lots of spontaneous trips that can happen, or sometimes foot in our mouth syndrome. And we want to figure out how to harness that energy and to live life larger. So we're not just expanding our passport stamps with this new moon, it's about kind of expanding our worldview. Now, I like to look at the degrees. I look at the Sabian symbols. I also follow degree theory. So if you guys follow degree theory, you know that 28 is going to kind of equate to Cancer. So it's going to have this extra kind of dose of anything connected to emotions, the past, home, roots, and family. But it's also 28 degrees and change. So it's coming up on a critical 29 degree, and it's also squaring Neptune at 29 degrees. So it is kind of playing on, connections to wrapping up loose ends, anything that deals with the past. It can also be amplifying this kind of pressure cooker energy of feeling like, okay, old limiting beliefs now begin to crumble. It's urging us to kind of have philosophical breakthroughs. It's time for upgrades in our belief system. It's time for travel. And it's about kind of embracing the edge of that kind of later degree of this sign. So it's rocket fuel, I think, for some authentic expansion. Now, when I talk about the Sabian symbols, we always round up because this is going to be 28 degrees and change. So I'll be reading to you guys 29 degrees of Sagittarius in my Sabian symbol book. If you guys like the Sabian symbols, you want to study more of them with astrology, I really love this book. You guys can find my book list down below. If you click my Amazon book list, any of the books or most of the tarot decks that I use, I always have there for you guys. All right, so 29 degrees of Sagittarius, a fat boy mowing the lawn. The keyword is participation. So the theme is effort. The symbol speaks to self-improvement and the social acceptance as it is gained through self-exertion, hard work, and participation in the ordinary, everyday lives and activities. The image of a fat boy mowing the lawn emphasizes the willingness to work or to give self, and this is the primary requirement for acceptance into any group. The actual giving of attention or to the little or mundane details of life is evidence that there is greater competency. The desire to belong or for fellowship and friends eventually triumphs over more primitive urges. At its highest, the symbol represents self-discipline, ambition, willingness to work, and to work long and hard to achieve desired goals. Watch for apathy and deliberate avoidance of mental or social challenges. The accent is on acceptance and affiliation. You may be all caught up in trying to prove what you have taken, trying to prove that you have what it takes to get where you want to be. Your greatest advantage lies in getting yourself in shape. Decide what improvements you need to make in yourself in order to reach your goal. Develop a plan of action. Guard against trying to make busy work for yourself in order to avoid social interactions with others and the give and take of relationships of everyday life. Stepping stones are effort, exertion, work, ambition, improvement, self-refinement, and desire for social acceptance. Wow. I think that really, I mean, just the degree in itself, it talks about, I think, 28, kind of overcoming the past, emotionally feeling like we're kind of stuck or we're kind of in a place where we need to kind of start over. And the squares that we're going to see to Saturn and Neptune, the superior square, really embodies the need to have a higher vision, have a belief. Even if you're not sure how you're going to get where you're going to go, you have to have faith. Sagittarius and Pisces both teach us that through Jupiter. And I think that this superior square is probably what stands out to me the most in terms of aspects. You guys know I always tell you aspects are what kind of determine what is a good or a bad new or full moon. With the superior square, we see this kind of happening all throughout Sagittarius season. So you'll actually see this with the new moon, and then you'll also see this as Venus comes into a square with Saturn and Neptune a couple days later. Mercury will come into a square with Saturn and Neptune right towards the end of the month. All kind of beaming down on Saturn in Pisces, which will be direct, obviously, Neptune in Pisces, which is direct at 29 degrees. And this is kind of the grand finale whenever you're dealing with planets that are in the late degrees of a sign. It's wrapping up or concluding something. So it has a lot of oomph coming into the superior square with these placements. And it's really pushing on Saturn, saying it's time to kind of get clear, get out of our own way, let go of any kind of victim mentality, let go of some of these mental or emotional blockages, fears or apprehension to things or feeling limited, and also some of the confusion with Neptune being in Pisces as well. Now, both of these are, forming an almost exact square to Neptune. It is squaring Saturn within about a 3-degree orb, but an almost exact square to Neptune. And this basically means that with both of these planets direct, they are now emerging from what has felt like a bit of a fog or a bit of confusion. So Saturn direct demands obviously structure for our visions when it's in Pisces. Neptune direct is really dissolving any kind of delusions, and we're trying to do this with compassion and also truth. So that square, I think, is kind of Sag's wild kind of fire clashing with Pisces' more kind of mystical fog and water. And this is where optimism is meeting with emotional realism. So the upside is we're going to forge truth with this new moon. I think this is about maybe testing our dreams against reality. And whatever survives, I think, is going to be gold going into 2026. Now, generally speaking, when we have a new moon in Sagittarius, this is generally a time where we're really kind of having this expansive rebirth, and we're doing it with heart. So it's not uncommon to see people planning trips, having philosophical kind of awakenings. There's ethical quests. We're working with gurus. We're learning something, and we're focusing on taking joyful risks and really rediscovering purpose through honesty. So this is going to be a new moon that's going to be about kind of aligning our compass with truth. And some of us might be traveling literally or kind of in a soulful way. It's also about learning that can liberate us, and it's also about faith that's going to fuel. But those squares to Saturn and Neptune are definitely whispering freedom thrives as long as we have roots. And I think that we're going to see that if we can be grounded with our adventures, if we can be healing through being a little bit more candid, and also saying yes to some of the bigger things in life and getting out of our own way. Now, these aspects are quite interesting. We're getting like a lot of Jupiterian energy in the skies right now under this new moon. And Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer. That's nothing new. It's going to kind of be there until about March of next year. It is exalted in Cancer. And if you notice, Jupiter is at 22 degrees. So this is a Capricorn degree. So it's about old standing ways of how we feel, how we have lived, where we are living, old family traditions. Maybe this is going to be about the effects that are going to be taking place in our homelands, revolving around government changes or reevaluation in regards to home and housing. Anything that's going to be about like nurturing and taking care of people, mothers, children, and incentives that are going to start actually hopefully helping those in need. We know that Pisces deals very much with the homeless. It deals with people who are kind of wounded, or maybe they're suffering from ill health, mentally or physically. And that square can really be saying it's time to talk about the ethics revolving around whether or not we're just looking busy or if we're actually taking action to stand up and start making some changes in our own local communities, our own countries, to kind of get a little bit more clarity about how we can actually fix some of these problems. Now, Jupiter is retrograde. So because Jupiter is the ruler It means a lot of what's going on with this particular new moon is going to revolve around our inner beliefs, okay, our inner emotions. And this is also, I think, talking about that this inward expansion has to happen first. So we may have to revisit emotional kind of themes connecting to our home or our security. And this also means that if we're setting intentions revolving around healing family patterns, this can actually turn what can feel like feeling a little confused or discombobulated into feeling more rooted or feeling more safe or secure in our current home or living situations. Now, the new moon is also going to be conjunct Venus. So you see Venus up here, and it's also conjunct Juno. So, you know, something that's interesting about this conjunction is Venus is the goddess of love and harmony and beauty and art and pleasure. And Juno is known as the wife or the spouse or the partner. It's a asteroid that deals with commitment. So with these two kind of being in conjunction to the new moon, I think this is like a big kind of like love, you know, romance signature. This lunation is obviously kind of snuggling up next to Venus and Juno. So this means that there can be fiery romance and loyal bonds that can kind of be seeded with this new moon. So if you're single, you might find that you're kind of attracting or aligning with the right people, especially if this is kind of lining up in your 5th or your 7th house. Those of you guys who are couples or in relationships, it can also mean this is planting a seed for the next 6 months where, you know, you're vowing to kind of grow together, and that the relationship can kind of evolve if you're really focusing on truth in the relationship. That can help you really deepen your ties to one another. Some of the challenges that I would say definitely coming from this new moon is the fact that, you know, Jupiter is in conjunct or quincunx all of this Sag. Okay, so Jupiter is actually 8 signs away from Sagittarius. So it means that we're having to go through some kind of really heavy emotional waters. We're getting tested psychologically. We're getting tested in terms of financial situations. Maybe we're getting tested in terms of, you know, being vulnerable and kind of showing our emotions. Cancer and Sagittarius, they create that in conjunct. They don't see each other very well. So where Sagittarius is kind of like brave, bold, and adventurous, Cancer has a tendency to kind of come into its shell and focus on security and doesn't want to kind of make some changes to the status quo. So they're kind of rubbing each other the wrong way. In light of that, Jupiter is still in its final stretch. We're starting to lose it at the end of December, but it still is within about a 3-degree orb of a trine to Saturn. So where we can reflect on the past, heal the emotions, get to the root of the problem, having better boundaries, a clear mind, and also a willingness to let things go, we can heal. So that is, I think, the silver lining. We do see that Jupiter is in a square to Chiron and Aries, which we saw earlier this year. I think it was closer to the summer. And that is a big ouch. So, you know, Jupiter makes things bigger. Jupiter is also connected and correlated with the moon. So we've got some mutual reception here where the moon's in a Jupiterian sign, where Jupiter is in a lunar sign. And they're kind of more or less saying the same thing, even though they're not making a very obvious aspect to each other. In order to grow and get bigger or get out of our own way, we have to really ask ourselves, what are we holding on to and what is emotionally taking up too much space in our body that's limiting our optimism or limiting our view or our vision? Now with Jupiter square Chiron, this is where Jupiter's more introspective nature is coming into tension with Chiron, which is known as the wounded healer. So there can be some identity scars that can be coming up. We can be asking ourselves under this new moon, am I brave enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I capable enough? And this is really going to be about healing through, I think, bold affirmations and turning doubt into, you know, what can be self-trust and feeling a little bit more secure. Now with that Jupiter trine Saturn and Pisces, remember that a lot of this is still very emotional. So even though this is going to be a fire lunation, there's a lot of water behind this. Some of you guys might find that the trine is helpful because it's kind of smooth and it's like flowing. It can harmonize the structure of Saturn. It can help us really dream big and get practical and kind of ground down some of that Sag energy, which can be a little too overly optimistic sometimes. And it really allows us to plant sustainable seeds. And this is where patience will really pay off in the long run. So we have to really rethink, you know, not only what we're holding on to, but where are we living? What's going on with our family dynamic? You know, where emotions are kind of getting in the way of allowing us to kind of see the bigger picture and be optimistic, especially as we head into the new year. Now, obviously that new moon square Saturn and Neptune It's a doozy. I think a lot of this is like faith over fear, right? I think a lot of this can be about, being optimistic, but also trying to be grounded and realistic and not taking on too much at one time, and knowing that there are certain things that have to kind of cycle out in order for us to kind of overcome. And this is a big tension, guys. This tension is going to linger for the next 2 to 4 weeks, and then you'll actually see this manifest over the next 6 months. And it means that ideals are definitely going to hit some limits. So we have to really practice discernment. We can be optimistic, but at the same time, we have to know what's fact from fiction. This is about kind of grounding our optimism and having resilient hope, and that we will emerge stronger as a result of this new moon in a couple months' time. Now, Saturn is also in a square to Venus. So that is a little bit of like a tricky aspect. Venus wants bold love and expansion and excitement and fulfillment and travel and culture in Sag. And with the square to Saturn, it means that romance can rub against walls a little bit. Maybe we're seeing that our boundaries are being tested when it comes to relationships. Maybe we're seeing some limits when it comes to finances or when it comes to joy. And we really want to choose growth, and we want to choose good matches, who we're working with, who we're collaborating with, who we're in relationships with. And this is about, I think, realizing that we have to kind of temper some of that wildness and freedom that we see with Venus and Sag. And we want to ditch the maybes for mature relationships and commitment. We have to sometimes kind of pace ourselves a little bit, not throw ourselves into something, or realize that good love and commitment can actually take time. Equally, tests in relationships or love or even in finances can teach us a lot about maturing and kind of growing, and the wisdom that can come from delays, because we know that Saturn doesn't always deny unless it's not meant to be, but he will delay until it's the right timing. Now, Venus in Sag is in a trine to Chiron and Aries, which at least is kind of softening some of that kind of Jupiter-Chiron square. So that really says that for many of us, there can be healing harmony. So we can see that there's opportunities for Venus to kind of flow to Chiron. This means that self-love really can kind of mend the heart. It also means that we are reminding ourselves that we are worthy, and we're learning a lot more about vulnerability and being authentic and being ourselves and kind of owning what we love or who we are. And we see Mars in Capricorn, and it's going to start coming into a sextile with the North Node. It's pretty wide, but I'm going to take it. But that sextile to the North Node in Pisces also makes me feel like action is really aligning with destiny. So we know that Mars is ambitious in Capricorn. It wants to do the heavy lifting. It wants to do the work. It wants the recognition. It's very competitive. And this is taking action, showing up for ourselves and showing up in the world and aligning with our soul's purpose. So we can channel that drive compassionately. We can find that karmic doors kind of swing open and things start to become a little bit more readily available for us. And we start to kind of get into alignment with our dreams and also our kind of chosen career or a long time kind of goals. Now, Mercury is in Sagittarius, and this is an interesting one because Mercury is forming less than about a degree square to the North and the South Node. Now, we're always looking at Jupiter's connection to the North Node, and we're looking at Mercury's connection to the South Node. So all of this by sign is squaring, Pisces. Okay, so we see the wider squares here. We see the more narrow squares here with Mercury. And basically when planets square the nodes, it represents a skipped step in evolutionary astrology. From my perspective, it means that this is a time where we're at a crossroads, and the universe is saying to you, okay, you have an opportunity to integrate this planetary energy. So in this case, it's Mercury, communication, writing, traveling, learning, teaching, publishing, having conversations, keeping an open mind, picking up a new book, traveling to a new place. And these things, if we integrate them, are actually going to help us expand and move out of the past and into the future. So with Mercury being business, travel, it can be something connected to languages. It can also be about higher education. I think a lot of people just generally might find that they're going, you know what, I think it's time for me to finally learn that second language. Or I think it's time for me to finally expand my business, and now I'm going to start shipping internationally. Or maybe it's time for me to go back to school and get that degree. Or I've been meaning to finish writing my book. It can also be conversations that you have with somebody, as you're kind of in transit or you're at work or with a sibling, that really opens up your frame of mind. But this square is saying that this is where the mind meets fate. So it's really important to kind of consider that North Node in Pisces is that spiritual flow. The South Node is more about perfectionist kind of traps or maybe changes with our jobs. And we're going to see some communication breakthroughs over the next several months with this new moon. So we want to speak intuitive truths. This is also about maybe releasing some of that more kind of nitpicky South Node and Virgo energy, and kind of opting for more inspired downloads. I think we're going to see a lot of people who are going to be shifting or pivoting and going into a different direction where they're either considering seriously picking up and moving to a new city or a new country and looking at the logistics of that, or trying to get the documents or the paperwork to make that happen, or they're trying to get a job somewhere to make that happen. I think we may also see some people who are opting to go back to school. It's been wild over the last 6 months how many clients I've been talking to who are like, yeah, I have my master's in this, or I have my bachelor's in that, or I have my degree in that, but I'm seeing the direction of where technology and things are going, or layoffs are going, so I'm going and getting a new degree. So I think a lot of people may consider that, especially with Mercury being at 10. That's a Capricorn degree, so it's going to deal with anything revolving around jobs. And then finally, we see the new moon that is in conjunct or quincunx Uranus. And believe it or not, this is the most exact aspect that you're going to see with this new moon because it's at 28. So this is not wide enough to be a yod. I wish Jupiter were a little bit further in degree because it would make this new moon pack even more of a punch, but it is what it is. But that in conjunct or quincunx exactly to Uranus retrograde in Taurus, 150 degrees, it's like sandpaper, it rubs us the wrong way. And it means that this new moon is going to be sparking sudden shifts in stability. So adventures can definitely disrupt comfort. And we can also see that flexibility is key here when we're dealing with Uranus in a fixed sign. Maybe it's about embracing some of the quirky changes or the growth hacks that might potentially kind of come up during this new moon. Mercury does kind of slightly sextile Pluto. I mean, I guess I could see some people really traveling and socializing and connecting with new groups or friends, over the holidays. I could also see this about people who are joining new study groups, new study clubs, maybe online schools, certifications, trainings, and kind of finding their tribe. I could see that kind of happening with this new moon as well. But those are the aspects in a nutshell. So if you're wanting to work with this new moon, one thing that I would say is obviously, fire. This is a fire new moon. So whether you are writing your intentions down and you're burning it, if you're burning a candle, if you're deciding that you want to have a bonfire outside and set your intentions, if you're wanting to brew an herbal, cup of tea, we want to work with something that's going to be warm or something that's connected to fire. But if you're somebody who likes to work with crystals, obviously one of the best crystals to work with for this particular sign, Sag, I would say amethyst is going to be a good one because that's associated with that degree. It's also good for like sobriety and seeing things clearly and being able to kind of manifest stuff. I like turquoise because this is good if we're journeying, if we're traveling, and if we're going places, especially with some of the new moon square Saturn and Neptune. I think it can be forecasting issues revolving around kind of airline travel, major disruptions with airline or international travel due to unexpected like weather patterns and changes and issues with like either ice or rain. And that would be good to have turquoise on you. I also like lapis because it's going to be really helpful for truth telling and being able to discern what is truth and intuition versus where we're kind of getting a little bit kind of confused or we're receiving information that might not be accurate. And citrine can be really good also for like abundance quests. So if you're focusing on having some financial shifts under this new moon, consider working with citrine. If you like to work with herbs, whether you put it on a candle or you burn incense or maybe you throw something into a bath, Sagittarius is strongly connected to sage. So you can use sage, you can burn sage and find ways to be able to kind of clear the air and set new intentions, and you can smudge. I also like dandelion. Dandelion tea can be great, especially if you're somebody who's trying to kind of get off of caffeine. It's a great kind of fake coffee hack. If you haven't tried it, you can put your cream and your sugar in it and it's going to be a pretty close second without all the caffeine in it. But dandelion is good because it's about wishes. Blowing out the dandelion, like the weed, is about releasing those intentions. And I also like cloves because this is good for courage. It helps boost courage, which I think we can kind of use a little bit more of with those squares to Saturn and Neptune. And cloves are good to be used in a tea, or you can also, you can burn them. You can kind of put them in like a little fireproof pot or something, and you can burn them over like a charcoal. Now, as for the oils that I would recommend, if you have a diffuser, if you use aromatherapy, I like ginger because I feel like it's going to get everything kind of moving and shaking, and it's going to heat things up. It's good for adventure and having a little bit more of like a spark. I also like black pepper because this is going to be good for really focusing on having bolder boundaries. Yeah, those are the things that I would recommend to use for your rituals for this new moon. Now, for the world predictions that I have, I could go on and on. They're going to be different for people personally versus, you know, what's kind of going on, obviously out in the world. But obviously a new moon is going to spark some major reckonings. And I think with some of the squares to Saturn and Neptune, it's going to be kind of pushing the truth. So we're looking at the tension between Sagittarius and Pisces. And Sagittarius can be in court systems, it can be legal cases, it could be about teachers and professors or legal professors. It can also be about authors and people who are kind of pushing the boundaries of fantasy and mysticism as we see squares to Saturn and Neptune. And I think that we're going to see tension revolving around ideals versus reality. And I think that's going to be kind of the complexity of also what we have seen recently during the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius that just took place over this last month. So this will equate to out in the world, like ethical debates in politics, what is truth versus what is spin. I also think that there's going to probably be some talks revolving around environmental calls and whether or not some of the changes or the directions that we're going in with environmental, you know, kind of investments, if it's really helping the environment or if it's hindering it, or if there is some kind of incentive, you know, maybe to be changing laws and things that is going to be impacting people in terms of travel. I think that's going to be a big one. And obviously we see that in conjunct to Uranus, so there could be some shocking kind of money stuff connected to that, or like power industries. And I think we might see some spiritual movements that are gaining traction now that Neptune is direct. But with Jupiter retrograde trining Saturn, this is really hinting at compassionate reforms, both in education and travel. And with Venus conjunct this new moon, I think we might see cultural love stories or kind of like unity festivals, celebration of certain cultures and, you know, religious practices. And Mercury's nodal square means that there could be some major miscommunications that can be coming up and flare up. Obviously, you know, Mercury is out of shadow at this point, but it is in a sign where it's in opposition to its home sign Gemini. So it has a tendency to kind of overlook some of the details. So there can be some viral aha moments that can happen. We can also see some major diplomatic faux pas. And I think that overall, it's like a hopeful push for global faith. And this is also more or less kind of tempering things with empathy. So 2026 is going to start with an expanded horizon only if we build some of these bridges wisely. On a personal level, obviously, this is about, I think, reclaiming joy through truth. So we'll see that there could be electric optimism with a new moon in Sag, fresh new starts, but some of those squares can definitely stir up some self-doubt, but we want to use that doubt as fuel, right? And also in another way of looking at this is that we're kind of hopelessly and gloriously optimistic, even though we don't know where we're going. We know that we just have to keep pushing forward. And maybe we are learning new ways or new hacks. So there's new teachers, new mentors coming into our life that's pushing us out of our comfort zone. Maybe we're exploring other places, other cultures, other belief systems or practices. So some people might be saying, I want to learn meditation, or I want to learn a new language, or I want to, you know, learn about a new culture or a new different type of, you know, Eastern kind of medicine or anything like that that could benefit you spiritually, but also emotionally as well. So there's going to be some ties to that. I do think that many people are going to see some breakthroughs in their personal self-beliefs just with some of the trines to Chiron. Yes, we'll see some romantic sparks that definitely kind of challenge our comfort zone, and some intuitive nudges that's really kind of coming from Mercury and some of the squares to the North Node. So watch for moments where you're in a foreign place and you learn something, or watch for between now and January that there can be a sense of you also feeling a little restless. And if you're feeling restless and you want to ground yourself with some of that Pisces energy where you can go out and about, but you still have to make sure you come back home, or you have to make sure you're doing your meditation, or you're getting adequate sleep. And likely what you'll find is that over the next several months, you'll emerge wiser in the Sagittarius area of your chart, freer, and I think a little bit more ready to embrace the new year. So let's get into the 12 rising signs. Let's talk about what's going to be happening with this new moon for each and every one of you guys. I am a Western astrologer. That's the kind of astrology that I like to practice. And I like to show you guys this from the perspective of the whole rising signs. Now, truth be told, I am through and through very much so a Placidus user. And I put this out there because I know a lot of other people are too. You can listen to this from whole sign housing, but this is going to be happening at 28 degrees. So it's the final kind of degree and a half of one particular house before we go into Capricorn land. So some of you guys may need to listen to more than one sign to get a bigger picture to see exactly where this full moon, this new moon is taking place in your chart. So if you are a Placidus user, find which house is 28 degrees, listen to both your rising sign and one sign over if you want to get the big picture. Listen to your rising sign to see where in your life this is going to be taking place, where to plant seeds. Listen to your sun sign to see how it's impacting you overall, your joy, creativity, or your career. And definitely it's a lunation, right? So listen to your lunar sign for your moon to see how this is impacting you emotionally to kind of get the bigger picture of what intentions you're going to be setting. So we're going to remind you guys once again, 27, 28, 29 degrees of the mutable signs. You guys are feeling this big time. Don't just look at the new moon where Sagittarius is. Look at where you're seeing the square to Saturn and Neptune, where it's pressing down, trying to get you to complete that storyline of what has been lost or confusing or too emotional in Pisces. And also look at where Jupiter is in Cancer, because that's also going to be kind of suggesting if we go back, we do the work in this area of our chart, we can actually make the area of Sagittarius bigger, better, and wiser. All right, I'm going to be working, I'll give you guys a tarot card reading today with this as well, so you guys will each get a card. And I don't know if I said this to you guys. I might have said that in the on my channel headlines or my comments. We did sell out of my tarot deck. So if you guys got one, thank you so much for supporting that project. We sold out all 100 of the deck in like 2 weeks. So if you got the Sword in the Rose and you like it, comment below, let me know. I've gotten some amazing comments on my Etsy store, so thank you guys for your support. We're going to start with Aries and Aries rising. What's up, Aries? We're going to be talking all about this new moon in Sagittarius taking place on December 19th, 2025 in your natal 9th house. Fellow sister fire sign. So if you happen to be 27, 28, 29 degrees Aries, sun, moon, or rising, this is trining you. And there's a lot of other fire that's kind of here as well. Mercury, Venus. So I think you're probably digging this. I think it's going to be really nice to see something in a similar element. Also, some of those trines to Chiron in your first house. You're learning a lot about self-healing. You're learning a lot about yourself. So the new moon will be in the 9th house, which means that this is about higher learning. So going back to school, publishing something, booking a trip, shifts in your belief system, meeting with a mentor. Those are the intentions you're setting. But Jupiter, the ruler, which has ties to this moon, is retrograde in your natal 4th house. And it is obviously, going through a part of your chart that deals with reevaluating, where do I live? Do I like where I'm living? Do I need to go back home? Is there going to be a change in regards to my beliefs about home or even family? And I feel like the square that you're seeing from the new moon to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces in your 12th is where kind of dreams are clashing with your identity or your drive. So this is about you really kind of grounding your visions with action. My advice is that you maybe do a little bit of journaling or you do some meditation under this new moon, and you want to ask yourself, what is my truth? What's going to set me free? Maybe this means that you're planning a little bit of a micro adventure. Maybe you're going to be deciding that you're going to finish up a course or you're going to publish something. And I think that it's possible some of you guys might either be traveling, or there's going to be like a dream trip that you're kind of planning, or maybe there's an epiphany that you have while you're traveling, or during some kind of course or some kind of an enrollment. And certainly faith in yourself is what's going to help you fuel some of the intentions as you're heading into 2026. So Aries, let's take a look and see what you need to know, what the tarot has to say about this new moon. Oh, I love this. You get the 2 of Wands. So it means that you're definitely ready to start your adventure. Where are you going, Aries, right? Where are you going? Are you booking a trip somewhere? Are you planning the first process or steps of teaching something, writing something? This is about kind of looking at the path and going, is it this or is it that? And a lot of that's the Mercury square. So I think some of you guys might be contemplating switching up your travel schedules, going to more than one place, I could also see some of you guys saying, hey, it's time for me to kind of switch directions with my health or my habits. I'm going to look at a different perspective. I'm going to learn a different modality about self-healing or care or fitness or wellness. Or some of you guys that are considering a second option when it comes to education, which could improve your professional standings. Regardless of where or this is kind of taking place or how this is kind of aligning with you, I feel like everything has to register right with you emotionally. That's Jupiter kind of bringing it back to Jupiter in your 4th house. So some of the quests you go on, some of the courses you take, where you go to school, where you're traveling, it is going to remind you that, you know, it might actually help impact you deciding where you may live or may travel to down the road. So if you're exploring for a future home, not a bad idea during this time. Good luck, Aries. Let me know what happens with this new moon for you. All right, Taurus and Taurus rising, you guys are going to be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius. This will take place in your natal 8th house. Obviously, if you are a Taurus or Taurus rising around that 27, 28, 29 degrees, this new moon is going to in conjunct or quincunx you, specifically because, well, look at Uranus and the angle that it's making. So Uranus rules your career. It's also about your status or anything about your professional life. And it does look like there are some new intentions to make changes or transformations financially or in terms of intimacy or in terms of vulnerability or psychologically that might feel a little unsettling with this new moon. Now, the 8th house is the house that deals with intimacy. It also deals with shared resources. So think taxes, inheritances, joint finances, investments. And we're going to see that during this new moon, it is actually ruled by Jupiter retrograde in your 3rd house. So this tells me that you guys are kind of going through a situation right now where, you know, it is about reflecting on your relationship maybe to your siblings, or maybe you're considering changing or transforming something about your plans when it comes to moving and how you're going to financially kind of pivot or readjust things to make that possible. Maybe you're thinking about refinancing a vehicle. Maybe you're thinking about something connecting to funding education. But certainly conversations where you're being more open about your finances or your emotions, Cancer, is going to be really, really important. Now, this new moon does square Saturn and Neptune, taking place in your natal 11th house of friendships. So this means that there's definitely going to be some boundaries that are going to be tested when it comes to your close friendship relationships, maybe vulnerability, maybe you're discerning who is and is not kind of in your corner under this new moon and who you can be raw and kind of vulnerable with. I think now is a good time to release old debts, and I would be smudging that out. I think that this is about reminding yourself that you have to kind of trust the flow of what's going on right now, that if you're not feeling supported by certain groups or allies, it's time to maybe communicate that and let them know. I think that this is also a good time to be really kind of grounding out some of your energies. I predict that for some of my Taurus or Taurus risings, you are going to find that you're going to have intimate kind of conversations about finances or about kind of the truth that can help you deepen ties to close friendships or relationships. There can also be unexpected inheritances or money that's coming from a joint partnership or a business partnership or a spouse that can actually soften some of the blow. Obviously, Venus is your ruler, so, you know, it is coming into a square with Saturn, so you are going to be feeling like, hey, you know, 2 is better than 1. You can build with another person to be able to kind of achieve some of your goals, and that can be with a group of people you're working with, that can be with a friendship, that can be with a partner, and I really think that now is the time to be open-minded and having conversations and figuring out how to trust a little bit deeper. Obviously, if you're looking for, you know, refinancing or paying off debt, or if you're trying to potentially apply for loans or extend your credit, that can be something you can try to do under this new moon, but the Saturn-Venus squares might bring some delays. All right, so what does Taurus and Taurus rising need to know? Of course, the card that you get is the Ten of Swords, very 8th house. I think that there's been some disappointment for Taurus and Taurus risings about kind of thinking like, all right, well, you know, things were going to be like this way financially by this point in time. And then obviously the retrograde, there's been some changes. And it's making you kind of recognize what has not been working, either in a financial situation or in an intimate situation. Maybe you've hit your limit quite literally with debt, or you've hit your limit with spending, or you've hit your limit with something. And now you're having to kind of be open and be vulnerable and talk about it. And you're having to kind of cut your losses. So 10 of Swords can represent disappointment. Maybe money that you thought was coming in didn't come in. So now you pivot and you're like, okay, what's next? We're going to kind of rethink our goals. Whatever's happened has happened. You can't undo the past. And I think that now it's about kind of prioritizing moving forward and kind of going, okay, what did we learn from this? What are we leaving behind? And how can we refocus and maybe renegotiate some of our kind of goals, either in relationships or finances, and focus on what's new. So in the 8th house, you can bring more support in, right? You just have to learn how to communicate and tell other people what you need. Taurus, I hope that this is a good one for you guys. Embrace the change, okay? All right, we've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? You guys are going to be doing this new moon in Sag in your opposite sign in your natal 7th house. So if you happen to have 27, 28, 29 degrees Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, this is opposing you. So this is going to be your 7th house, which is other people. And the 7th house is partnerships, but partnerships that act like a mirror. And I think that's been a big theme for you guys recently with the Mercury retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. Miscommunications, misunderstandings, reconnections, going deeper, clearing out the past. And so now you're kind of finished with that. And now you are able to kind of hit restart when it comes to your love life. Or 7th house could be working with a new therapist, a new astrologer. It could mean you have a new manager of some kind. Maybe it means that now you have new products or there's new things that you're going to be selling because it can be your marketplace. Now, this new moon ties to Jupiter, which is retrograde in your 2nd house in Cancer. So this means that in a way, there is this shift that's going on where you're reevaluating who or what you value the most, what relationships you hold on to, which ones you let go of. Do you feel more solid and kind of stronger emotionally or financially or in a home sense with partners? And a lot of kind of give and take in relationships and asking yourself, are you actually getting what you need? It may not necessarily be financially, it can be emotionally as well. Now, we do see that this new moon also squares Saturn and Neptune. So I know that you guys are probably sick and tired of this transit. Certainly Sagittarius season is just pushing on all of that stuff with the North Node in your career house, which is saying kind of grow, expand. You also have Saturn where you have been feeling like there's been a heavy burden at work, or there's been a difficult boss, or there's been a limitation or even a challenge finding work. And then Neptune where everything feels confusing. As planets go through your 7th house, this means that you're going to have somebody who's going to come in, or multiple people, because you got a lot of planets there, who are influencing and showing up at the right time to help you navigate where you're going with changes at home and changes in your career. So I think of like recruiters, I think of therapists, I think of astrologers that are going to guide you, I think of supportive partners or people who are destined to kind of show up into your life, or, you know, somebody who's just kind of a coach who's kind of pushing you, being like, you got to keep going, you know, be optimistic, you can do it. And they're investing in you. And so I think that that's the positive. Obviously a, square between Saturn and Neptune with this new moon is not ideal. But there can be ideals that are going on versus relational fog. And so you really want to clarify your commitments to other people. You need to do this also with emotional honesty. And I would say for many of you guys, this is going to require you to kind of just ask yourself, am I connecting and collaborating with partners who are actually reflecting my growth? I predict for some of you guys that there can be some soulmate stuff that can happen. Obviously, Venus and Juno being there under the new moon. It can also mean that there is a new collaboration or there's a new spark with somebody that can enhance your emotional security, but also your finances as well. Certainly, Mercury square the nodes means that it can also force you to have conversations with other people or meet other people that can help shift or kind of change your perspective or your frame of mind. And it's also about kind of easing some of the mental loops that you've been going through with relationships. Gemini, let other people help you. That's my advice to you. Let other people support you, invest in you. If you don't know, ask somebody who is going to be better experienced. Ask your partner, check in with a therapist, book an astrology reading. These things can really help you in kind of figuring out the new direction, not only in your career, but your relationship. So if you're single, good time to set intentions, even though you don't know how you're going to meet someone or where you're going to meet someone, and that work has been crazy. And if you are in a committed relationship, it's about really focusing on that relationship, working together and investing in one another, and not letting work or some of the changes going on at home kind of, make you guys feel like you're two ships passing in the night. All right, so let's see what card we get for my Gemini risings. You guys get the 9 of Swords, hanging out with Taurus on this one. I feel like this is about some Geminis going like, is this relationship going to pass the test? Are we going to make it through this? And I think it's safe to say that the next 6 months is going to tell you very clear as day what is and is not going to work. Uranus is going to come back into your sign next year, right? So you're going to see that there is going to be a sense of you wanting more freedom. You want to travel. You want to go and learn things, and you want to do stuff. And there may not be as much connection to a relationship, but if you've been in a rocky relationship, this is like the last ditch effort for the next 6 months to see if you guys can overcome some of the pressure that you guys are both experiencing together. I also feel like for those of you guys who are single, if you're kind of questioning, am I ever going to meet anybody? I would say, yes, don't worry. You know, next year you're going to see Jupiter coming into a trine with Saturn. Things are going to stabilize. Things will get active. But right now you have to be kind of releasing any of the anxiety or stress that's going on at work, not allow that to, kind of keep you from being able to partner with another person. I think that's really what kind of comes up with this square. Good luck, Gemini. Let me know what happens. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you guys are going to have a new moon taking place in Sagittarius in your natal 6th house. Obviously, you guys are ruled by the moon, so lunar transits impact you quite a bit. You don't really have too much in common with Sagittarius. However, its ruler is in your sign, so you definitely play like a co-star role in this particular lunation. So a new moon in the 6th house about routines, maybe finding a new job, focusing on your health, getting back to the doctor, being of service, maybe getting a new pet, finding a new office. These kinds of things can kind of happen with a new moon. Now, the ruler obviously is retrograde in your sign. So a lot of my Cancer and Cancer risings have just felt kind of crazed with changes that's happening with an ever fluctuating either work situation or health situation. And you've recently had a retrograde in your health zone over the last month. You've also recently had this Jupiter retrograde in your sign here as well. So there's a lot of things changing either about your health and your habits, or there's a lot of things changing about your kind of beliefs and your philosophy about work and about service. Putting it all together, I think that inner wisdom is really kind of fueling some of your more practical quests. Now, this does square Saturn and Neptune, and this means that there is some kind of conflict going on with the new intentions you're setting revolving around where you're working, how you're working, your health, your habits, your schedule, and making time for 9th house things. So I've got a lot of work, but I also want to go back to school. You know, I have got a lot of health issues, but I also want to travel. I'm dealing with, pet related matters, and I don't really know how I'm going to be able to kind of factor that into, maybe traveling or kind of getting out of town. So I think for my Cancer risings, this is where your work dreams kind of more or less kind of break down and they dissolve a little bit. There can be a sense of you guys also needing to rebuild your schedule, rebuild your health, set new intentions, and do so with compassion. So I would like to see you guys trying to kind of blend routine with joy, or maybe scheduling time for health and wellness or working out, maybe learning new health practices. It would also be a good idea for you guys to be trying to kind of factor in traveling, even though it might feel kind of complex with some of your schedule changes that's been happening. But I do predict for my Cancer and Cancer risings a health upgrade, both because Jupiter is retrograde in your sign, but also this new moon is saying this is time to have this health grade in a more kind of mindful manner. And it's also about purpose that's kind of aligning more effortlessly for you. Saturn and Neptune is all about purpose in your 9th house. Thankfully, Jupiter is trining Saturn and Neptune. So it is saying that if you can be optimistic that you can overcome, or this too shall pass, it's going to allow you to learn, or it's going to allow you to have, I think, a deeper faith or a belief that the universe has your back. All right, Cancer, let's take a look and see what the cards say for you in terms of what the predictions are for this new moon in the Sagittarius. The card that I got for you is the Fool card. Okay, taking a leap of faith. I like that. Maybe that's like the in conjunct of the quincunx to Uranus. I also think that this is about you being like new moon, new me, new habits, new routines, right? I love a new moon in the 6th house to go, I'm going to go and find, a new doctor, or I'm going to go and find a new vet, or it's time for me to, start a new kind of routine. And this is how I'm eating, or this is how I'm working out, because it's got a lot of oomph. We need something to do when we have a new moon here. Try things you've never tried before, right? If you're somebody who's never really been a morning person, try getting up a little bit earlier, do it for 21 days. If you're somebody who has never really been into, going to the gym, that's fine. But Sagittarius is saying, try a yoga class, try a meditation class, Go and do something that's going to be incorporating something that's going to be physically good for you in the morning, especially with Jupiter in the first, but also it's going to kind of brighten your mood and make you a little bit more optimistic. So where you're blending physical activity with kind of mindfulness and spirituality, I think that's going to be the secret sauce. So try something new, add something new into your routine over the next month, and see how much more joy or optimism. And it can be a spiritual practice too. Meditation, prayer is very much, I think, Jupiter in Cancer. Good luck, guys. Let me know what happens. All right, we've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? Leo, if you happen to have anything around 27, 28, or 29 degrees of Leo, this is a new moon that will trine you. So you guys are going to dig it. Obviously, there is some grand fire trine energy going on for Leos because we're picking up the energy of Chiron and also all of this Sag. And anything that deals with the sun obviously is going to kind of trigger your chart if you're a Leo rising. So the sun and the moon are in conjunction together in your natal 5th house. So the 5th house is all about the heart space. It's about falling in love, creativity, play, children, focusing on conception. It can also be about new creative projects. So as you have this new moon, you're setting some of those intentions. That's what you're going to be focusing on. And it's pulling or drawing energy from Jupiter, which is retrograde in your 12th, which can actually bring for you, I think, hidden talents that's coming into play for how you create or how you share. Working and creating, kind of behind the scenes. It can also mean that there is some kind of karmic romantic things that are at play. And I also feel like this creativity is really going to be connected to your emotional depth. That's what's going to help kind of ignite the fun. Now, what's challenging about this new moon is that we are going to see that it's going to square Saturn and Neptune. And you're going to feel the square a couple days prior because the sun's going to square Saturn at 25, probably about 2 days earlier. Where you're seeing that you're hitting some blocks, right? There's some blockages that are coming up. I think the blockages are revolving around where you feel creatively blocked, or where you don't want to get hurt again, or where you don't want to be vulnerable, or you're afraid to take risks because of the costs that might come up, or the fear of being alone or being detached might come up. And I would say that there can be a sense of joy hitting its limits under this new moon. This is also about sustaining the spark of creativity and joy or romance and trying to do it in a more realistic manner. I think that for a lot of you guys, I do predict that this new moon can bring some romantic epiphanies. You might feel more flirty. It is going to make you more mindful if you are launching creative businesses or self-employed things, or if you're taking risks, that there is a limit. You can only spend so much, you can only give so much, you're not going to have the most time or the most resources, but you're still going to create nevertheless. And if this were me, I would say focus on the Venus trine. I think with Venus trine coming into a trine with Chiron, that's going to help you learn new ways to kind of maybe heal the heart space or work with the inner child and create, just because it's going to be kind of therapeutic. And that can really also help you heal any wounds revolving around playtime and learning how to play, and that it's an important part of the creative process, that maybe it's not necessarily about selling something or making money, but kind of the healing that goes on as you're creating and expressing. The other thing that I would say is, being a fixed sign, knowing that this is going to in conjunct or quincunx Uranus, it is really trying to get you to get creative and showcase your talents if you want to have some big changes or breakthroughs in your professional life. I think that's definitely worthy of mentioning. But let's see what the cards have to say for you guys, Leo, what the predictions are for this new moon in Sagittarius. The card that I get is the Six of Wands. So I love this because I feel like the 5th house is about like taking that risk and not knowing how it's going to play out. And it may take, 5 or 6 months to see some of this come to fruition, but it does look like you will be successful. So if you are trying to, become self-employed, if you were trying to start a family and have a baby, if you were trying to maybe, take some risks financially, although knowing your limits, it looks like you'll be successful. It looks like you'll pay off. It is important for you, I think, to realize that a lot of this is about knowing that you have the support of another person, and whether that's a friend, a partner, somebody who you can kind of lean on, because there can be some doubt that can creep in with Saturn and Neptune in the 6th house of, is it going to pay off? Is it going to be worth it? Am I taking a necessary risk? And the 6 of Wands is saying, yes, you'll be victorious. You'll be able to come out the other side. If you can prioritize doing something you love or creating something from a place of love or from your heart, you're going to find that it's actually going to be rather successful. So Leo, that's a great reading for you guys. Definitely let me know how that resonates with you. All right, my Virgos and Virgo risings, you guys are going to be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius taking place in your natal 4th house of home and family. Obviously in a fellow mutable sign. So if you're 27, 28, 29 degrees of Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be squaring you. It's also going to be squaring Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house. So it's making this a focal point energy. And it has been over the last month or so with the Mercury retrograde, of things that are happening, new intentions that are coming in, action that's taking place emotionally, maybe at home, maybe with your family, or anything kind of connected to your private life. So new moons in the 4th house is, okay, you want to move, you want to redecorate, you want to renovate, you want to look for a new place, you want to go back home. All of these things can kind of happen. It's all about that inner world and your roots of the chart. Now this is ruled by Jupiter, which is retrograde in the 11th house of hopes, goals, dreams, and friends. So a lot of these new intentions revolving around where you live might be connected to where is your community, or am I moving back home and then seeing friends I haven't seen for a while? Am I going back home for a celebration or a party? Am I shifting something about my goals when it comes to home? Do you want to entertain more, right? Do you want to invite people over? And I think that this is also really interesting because the Saturn and Neptune square, because this is a superior square, means that you're probably likely doing something different over the holiday season. And maybe it's been November into December. Maybe you're going out and traveling instead of spending time with family. Maybe you're kind of having some adventure versus feeling like you need to be stuck at home. And I think that this is about where family ideals are kind of blurring. And there is a sense of like kind of getting pulled in two directions between, well, this is what I've done in the past and this is what my partner wants to do. And there can definitely be some friction revolving around how you navigate some of the changes in the home base and how that's actually impacting relationships. So some people will say, well, I'm going to move because I'm moving to be with my partner. Or maybe it means that you're trying to kind of, appease what family wants to do towards the end of the year, but your partner wants to do something else. You're going to see that friction with the square. My advice here is really focus on maybe creating a home altar. I think if you're creating a home altar with everything, all of your intentions of all of your goals and what you want, you can find something that can appease both parties. I also feel like this can be a time where rather than feeling like you have to go to a partner's family's house versus, going to your family's house, you could find a neutral ground and you could go, let's have the celebration here. Let's bring everybody here. So that way we can find a way to be able to make everybody happy. I also think that this is about releasing with Mercury square, the South Node in your sign, these kind of perfectionist ideas. Like we can get outside of the box of what you're usually doing towards the end of the year or over the next 6 months, where you're used to living, how you're used to emotionally responding, and you can actually expand. And that'll probably come because, there is going to be a therapist or a counselor or a partner who's going to be kind of saying to you, well, I'm not happy. And it's your job with Mercury square to say, let's expand. Let's talk about what our goals are. Let's make a change that's going to make everybody happy. So is there a relocation coming for Virgo or Virgo risings over 6 months? Maybe. Is there a renovation coming? Possibly. I think that I would just really focus on grand goals when it comes to your home. And if you need to kind of reset the balance between family and relationships, this is a time to focus on a win-win for every party involved. All right, Virgo, well, let's take a look and let's see. What do these cards say about this up and coming new moon in the sign of Sagittarius in your 4th house? What kind of guidance or advice can the cards give you? Ooh, I get the Emperor. So could be an Aries in your life, could be about a relationship with your father, okay? It can also be like a father-in-law or a brother, a husband, and kind of being like, hey, you need to take the lead on this one. And I have so many Virgo rising clients and I've seen it. It's a lot of this energy, especially as Mercury's kind of coming into a square with Saturn and Neptune, where you're going to start saying, look, if you're not happy about it or this isn't what you like, then, all that energy is squaring Saturn and Neptune. What do you think I should do? Or what should we do together? Or asking a therapist, how do I handle the situation? Or saying to your partner, I need you to take some kind of action. Stop being kind of wishy-washy, Saturn, Neptune in your 7th. Where do you see ourselves living in 6 months? Do you see ourselves moving here? Do you want to live there? Are we going to be separating? What are we doing? And you will see that kind of continue after the new moon. But the Emperor energy represents being a boss, being more about action, less about words. And I know you're a word sign, so you're mercurial based. But I think that this is where Mercury and Sag is just kind of like, what are we going to do about it, you know? And I think that this is about really showing up, and that there can be something going on revolving around a really significant solar figure in your life. So I don't know if that's a son, if that's a brother, if that's a father, if that's a husband, but watch some of these people, and certainly Mars can be connected to that as well, the Emperor, and it's sitting in your 5th house. So taking action revolving around your kids, around an entertainment center, or kind of creating something new, or maybe there's new kids coming into the home or something like that, where you're going to have to take responsibility for that. So let me know what happens, Virgo and Virgo rising. Good luck with this new moon. All right, Libra and Libra rising. How are you guys doing? Let me scale back. Sorry, I know I drive you guys crazy when I do this. I want to see the moon in its sign. All right, so we're going to have, for Libra and Libra rising, we're going to have a new moon in Sagittarius that's going to be taking place in your natal 3rd house. Libra, this is a house that deals with vehicles, communication, leases, contracts, learning, siblings, neighbors. It's the juncture in astrology. It's a little bit of everything. So you're going to have a new moon that's going to be here. And obviously, this is going to represent setting new intentions in regards to those things. Now, it's ruled by Jupiter, which is retrograde currently in your natal 10th house of career and reputation or work. So a lot of the new intentions that you're seating under the 3rd house will connect and correlate to traveling for work, communication at work. If you're in a industry where you're writing, you're teaching, you're publishing, anything like that, somehow the new moon in the 3rd is going to be kind of influencing that. So this means that it's about the mind, and this is about expanding your career intuitively, expanding your horizons intuitively, and needing to think more positively, needing to write more, needing to learn more, needing to study in order to kind of reach some of your professional goals. Now, the downside of this is that we do see that there is a square from the new moon to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So it is in your 6th house of health, habits, dealing with enemies, overcoming problems with pets, overcoming health-related challenges. And it's in the final moments of kind of going through your natal 6th house. I see this as there's a lot of ideas coming up for Libras and Libra risings. You know, I want to launch a website. I want to travel here. I want to learn that. I want to write a book. And it's like, the question is, Libra, do you have time to do all of these things? Are you delegating tasks appropriately? Do you need to hire people? Is your health well enough or capable enough for you to be able to get all this done? Are you feeling a bit of crunch time when it comes to trying to navigate juggling either traveling or work or your health or anything revolving around communication and writing? I think that for you guys, this is about ideas versus this kind of like empathy fog, because Saturn and Neptune can make you drained because you're giving too much to other people. So you want to speak and communicate with grace under this new moon. I also think that with Venus coming into a square with Saturn, it is saying it's your job, Libra and Taurus as well, to really focus on time management skills. And also be focusing on, realistically, are you getting done the things that you need to get done, you know, your non-negotiables when it comes to taking care of your health, or are you pushing yourself beyond your limit? A new moon here is great if you want to renew a website, launch an online business, if you want to start writing, but you have to come up with a schedule, you have to come up with a routine that you can facilitate. And Saturn rules your 5th house, your 4th house of home, and your 5th house of children and creativity. So if you're doing creative writing projects, stick to a timeline. If you are focusing on trying to get work done, you might feel like there's some stuff going on with home and family that you need to jump into that's kind of cramping your schedule. Anyway, I would say I predict for Libra risings that there can be like a viral moment for you. It can also mean that this is a time where there's important conversations that are coming up with siblings. And this is also about kind of freeing up your mind when you start cutting away some of the unnecessary things in your schedule or in your habits. So let's see, Libra, what do the cards have to say for you? Are they going to be as brutally honest with you as they have been the other signs? Let's see. All right, so I get the 3 of coins, which definitely makes sense. I mean, it's kind of cool that it's also in the 3rd house, and it does kind of talk about working together and the need to work through challenges. And that's very much that 22 degrees of Jupiter in your 10th house. I mean, I think you're reflecting on, wow, what has grown in my career? And, you know, now is it time for me to start finding a way to communicate differently or start letting people know, hey, it's been too much expansion too quickly. So 3 of coins is about delegating tasks. It is about working together. It is about coming up with a way to work as a team. So maybe you're collaborating with people at work, maybe you're collaborating with your siblings to be able to kind of all join in and take care of a home or a family related theme. But certainly 2 or 3 is better than 1. So start communicating and letting people know what you can and can't do, okay? Good luck, Libra. For my Scorpios and Scorpio risings, the time has come. You have your new moon in Sagittarius in your natal, 2nd house, Scorpios. So this is your once in a year time to set your money manifestation intentions, all right? So a new moon in the 2nd house is highlighting themes revolving around renewal, connecting to values, your money, your self-worth, your spending power, and anything revolving around resources. So this is a good time to say, hey, this is what I'm hoping to accumulate over the next 6 months. This is what I want to buy. This is what I want to have in the bank. And also feeling healthier when it comes to your self-esteem. Now it's ruled by Jupiter, which is retrograde in your 9th house, which means there is a lot of new beliefs coming online about money and resources and what you believe you can achieve. Are you investing in travel? Are you investing in school? Are you investing in education? Certainly there's kind of a connection between the two here. And yeah, there could be some like big budget expenses and purchases. You've got a pretty heavy slew of planets going through your 2nd house, but I think it's well welcomed after what's been a pretty brutal Mercury retrograde in your sign. Lots of money stuff got limited, it got stopped up, things did not come in maybe that you thought it was going to, and obviously we've seen a whole bunch of planets come into a square with Saturn and Neptune, which is also kind of baked into this particular square. So with this new moon, looking at the new moon squaring Saturn and Neptune and Pisces in your 5th house, this is going to be about wealth dreams that are having some limits that are coming up, or some tests. And this is really about valuing your soul over stuff. And the 2nd house is stuff, Pisces is the soul. The good news is that maybe some of the money challenges or the self-esteem doubts or the delays have actually pushed you to get creative and ask yourself, what do I really value? What do I really want? What's going to make me the happiest? And how can I achieve that? And it's kind of forced you to get creative and maybe go back to some old creative projects that you may have abandoned in recent months. Now, what I do think is interesting about this is that during the time of the new moon, I'm looking at Mars for you, which is exalted in Capricorn. So maybe money is coming from traveling, from writing, from speaking, from, local kind of business related matters, new websites, things like that. And so maybe you're putting some of that effort and some of that resource into building something online. We've also got Pluto, where we're going to see Mercury slightly sextiling Pluto. It's wide, but now you're able to kind of rethink where you stand financially if you want to make some big changes and transformations on the home front. So budgeting changes, cutting back on expenses, things like that. So you can really make a pretty dramatic change at home. So there's some nice aspects with both of your rulers. I think that that's at least beneficial for the most part. And I would anticipate as a Scorpio rising that this is really about you asking yourself, what deserves my energy, okay? Because it's time to kind of take like an energy audit. I think that you're going to see your income is more aligned with your ethics and what you truly value. I would say keep in mind that this is going to in conjunct or quincunx Uranus, which can disrupt certain relationships. So if you're aiming too big, you can see that there can be some conflicts, especially over values in relationships or kind of joint finances. I also feel like all of this is squaring Saturn. So if you have had some situations where there's been some disappointments in love life or launches that didn't quite take off, or maybe there has been a sense of you also feeling like risks that you've taken financially have really kind of left you in a bit of like a standstill. Now you're going to have more momentum and you're going to have more optimism when it comes to taking calculated risks. Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Okay, so Scorpio, let me know what happens. Let's see what the cards have to say for you guys for what to expect under this new moon in Sag. Wow, I love this card, 2 of Cups. It's almost like the in conjunct to the quincunx from your 2nd house to Uranus in the 7th is saying like you have to believe in yourself, and if you're not, then there's definitely going to be some relational issues. And if you're not feeling worthy enough of love or good enough, then you are going to see that, yeah, people are going to come in that are going to treat you like that, or there's going to be some friction in a relationship because somebody's seeing you for who you are and they value you, but you can't give that to yourself. So some of the friction might actually push you to realize, hey, I am good enough, I am worthy enough. There's this upgrade here. And then you also see that there is more relational harmony, 2 of Cups. So this is a relationship card. Certainly the new moon is conjunct Juno, right? So that's your 7th house lord. So some of you guys might be getting, you know, some really nice gifts this holiday season, or you'll be seeing that partners are showering you with appreciation or love, or maybe they're investing in you and they're trying to kind of help build you up. So you have to see your worth in order to be able to really recognize and receive that love so you can build stronger, longer lasting unions. Scorpio, let me know what happens. All right, Sag, are you ready? Finally, and I don't have any Sag placements. I'm a progressed Sag rising, but I feel like Sagittarius rising has been the underdog of the year. I think that probably arguably next to Virgo or Pisces risings, but it's been a doozy for you guys. And now it's like what has not killed you makes you stronger. So this is now where you guys really finally start to emerge under this new moon. 27, 28, 29 degrees of Sag, you guys are going to have a new moon that's going to be around your birthday. So that means new moon, new you, and on your birthday or around your birthday, everything's brand new this year. So you're going to see a complete restart and likely a bit of a shakeout right before this new moon. So for you, it's happening in the 1st house. So this is the house of identity. This is about your appearance. This is about your goals, new beginnings. And obviously, this gives you the opportunity to really focus on what do I want? But more importantly, Jupiter in the 8th house retrograde is what do I need to change or transform within myself? It could be emotionally. It could be you looking in the mirror going, I got to do this, I got to do that. It could also mean that you're starting to recognize where the emotional blockages or the unwillingness to make changes and be more vulnerable is having an impact on you physically. And so some of you guys might be feeling like you want to undergo, you know, cosmetic treatment. Some of you guys will decide that you need to go and check in with a psychologist. There's going to be people who are going to be saying, I just want to look completely different in 6 months. And I think you guys can achieve it. I really, really do. But with Jupiter retrograde in your 8th house, this means that you really have to ask yourself, what have I been afraid to change? And what emotions are making me kind of limited, or what am I holding on to that really needs to be let go? Now, simultaneously, you do see the new moon is coming into a square with Saturn and Neptune in your 4th house of home. And finally, this is where Sag now has the upper hand, because if you go back to June of this year, a lot of relational drama. If you go back to, you know, September of this year, a lot of career drama. And now finally, all these planets in your sign, you're playing with home field advantage, is squaring Saturn and Neptune. So finally you emerge after the retrograde, you go, okay, I'm going to shake it off. I'm ready to go. I'm going to tackle some of these home and family themes. So I've got a lot of Sag risings in my life. I've observed that you guys are having to move house. You're having to take care of parents. You're having to go back home. You're having to deal with some family karma. You're feeling very lost and confused. But this new moon means that there is going to be new intentions. There's going to be new personal quests that are really asking you to focus on compassion and maybe balance your boldness with better boundaries revolving around your home, your family, and your heart. Now, I think that this is about you really focusing on what you want more than anything else, because if you can change and transform yourself, you can start to overcome some of the blockages that's happening for you when it comes to feeling maybe less than satisfied with the state of your private life. Do some kind of ritual for yourself around this time. I think that I would work with fire, and I would also focus on overcoming or taking action, or be using affirmations in the form of I am, because the 1st house is what you get up, what you do first thing in the morning, what you're kind of putting into action. And I predict for you guys, you'll see within 6 months' time, there's going to be a pretty big identity glow up, and you're going to be the star of 2026, certainly come the spring of next year. But I think that with Venus being here, it's bringing you better health, maybe a little bit more social connections. Juno being here, some of you guys are going, oh, well, I'm focusing more on the relationship to myself. And when I'm more in connection with myself, I'm going to be less rattled when other people kind of go through their stuff. Uranus in your 7th. This also means that you guys may be feeling like you're preparing for a big move, a big ceremony, a graduation, a wedding. You're calling in some kind of divine partner. So there can be a lot of things kind of connected to coming of age, you know, kind of stuff happening in your life. So let's see what the cards have to say for Sag and Sag rising. What is the prediction for you guys under this bold new moon in your sign? What does Sag need to know? Wheel of Fortune. I love this. I could have picked a better card for you guys. I feel like the Wheel of Fortune is saying that things are still going, right? So if you had gotten the World card, it would be like, well, cycles are over and that's done. And I would say, no, things are still going. You still have to kind of get out of this seated 6-month square to Saturn and Neptune, and you'll find it start to break through as you get into like May or June of next year. But things are always working out for me, right? The universe is handling the details. You know, doors are opening, change is possible. I embrace some of the unknown and really being in that state of mind. Change is something that you want to embrace right now, Sag. If you can do that, you can flow with it. I think it's going to help you kind of ease through some of these heavier topics going on at home, and also help you be a little bit more resilient in the process. Good luck. All right, my Capricorns and Capricorn risings, you guys are going to have a new moon in Sag in your natal 12th house. For you guys, this is a little bit more quiet and serene, subconscious, it's private. This is about spirituality. This is about closure, your bedroom, traveling to foreign lands, anything that can be kind of mystical in nature. And this is like the cosmic clearing out that happens as all these planets are going through Sagittarius, which is 12th house to your sign. So almost Capricorn season. It's almost like this final review that you're doing now right before you come into your season. And so it's going to kind of clear everything out in your subconscious. This new moon is ruled by Jupiter, which is in your natal 7th house of relationships. It's retrograde. I've heard some interesting stories about this transit. And this means that what's coming up for you is maybe some karmic conclusions or wrapping up or reevaluations of what has or has not been working in relationships, where you're hiding out from relationships, where you're still seeking somebody. Maybe you're finding things out about relationships that you did not know, or you're trying to kind of make sense of, do I stay or do I go? Now, we will also see during this new moon, it is going to come into a square with your chart ruler, Saturn, and that's going to be sitting in your 3rd house of communication, and it's now direct. So unfortunately, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces risings, you guys are going to kind of feel like you're the ones that are kind of on the receiving end of some of these new blessings, and it's going to push you out of your comfort zone. So with the new moon in the 12th house, something is coming that you guys do not see, and it could mean unintentional travel. It could mean that you're dealing with, hidden enemies. It could mean you're dealing with subconscious limitations. And dreams are something I'd be paying attention to with Mercury there, with Venus there, with the sun there. I would be like, your dreams are going to be lit, telling you what direction you should be going when it comes to a relationship. Now, I also feel like that square is really saying there needs to be there needs to be a sense of healing from hidden emotions that's stunting your growth. And the inner fog has been kind of thick now that Saturn and Neptune are direct, and you're really supposed to be surrendering to dissolve any hidden limitations or any illusions or any fears you have revolving around communicating, moving, speaking up. I would advise you guys, if you can, maybe do something ritually at night before you go to bed, like burn some cloves or burn some sage. Maybe do a dream journal or something of that nature, meditate, because that's where you're going to get some of your kind of messages, especially with Mercury in the 12th house. Dreams can come in. This can also be a place where you clear past lives. You can have breakthroughs in meditation, past life regression, hypnosis, all that stuff, especially if there's fears revolving around vulnerability in relationships, or if you're wanting to maybe cut karmic ties with old relationships so you can like let new love in. I think that you're going to see some karmic closure is going to happen. Obviously, Mars is in your sign, okay? So even though there's so many planets in your 12th house, you're still showing up to the party going, I'm brave, I'm going to keep pushing forward. You've got your game face on. And this means that you're super focused on your goals, recognizing and realizing that in order to really move forward the way you want in relationships, you must release the past. So get in a lot of rest, get in a lot of healing. And I wish you guys good things under this new moon. All right, let's take a look and see what card comes up for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You get the Page of Cups. So this is relationship oriented, by the way, and the moon does rule relationships. So for some of you guys, you're going to go, oh my God, the moon's in my 12th house and I've got all this stuff squaring Saturn and, I kind of feel like a partner's alienating me. And I would just say, just chill out. There is still a relationship connection here. This can mean there's somebody who's currently present or somebody who's coming in. It can be a water sign, so Pisces, Scorpios, and Cancers. But it can also mean that there is still a lot of love there. And I'm wondering, are you a Capricorn or Capricorn rising that's like with somebody, but you're wondering if there's somebody still in the past that you can connect to? Does this mean that you are asking the universe for a sign? Do I move forward in this relationship? Do I not? Are you still seeking a better connection elsewhere? You know, I would say focus on the heart. Focus on what your intuition and your heart is telling you. Because if you know that you're in a relationship that's not right, if you set something free right now, you might actually have something better that's going to come down the road. Now, obviously, look at your natal moon, what's going on with transits there. That'll give you an idea of where you're at with that. But I do feel like this might be about also a really significant karmic connection, like a soulmate coming in that you're just kind of surrendering to, and you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. If you're in a committed relationship and everything's good, this can mean that you're more focusing on nurturing that relationship, getting quiet time together, focusing on how you guys can kind of better connect and communicate, and feel like you're not just kind of like two ships passing in the night. Anyway, good luck, Capricorn. Let me know what happens. Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you guys are going to do this new moon in Sag taking place in your natal 11th house of friends, networks, association, hopes, dreams, and wishes. So this is a strong wishing moon for you guys. Obviously, your social life can be just buzzing. You got a lot of planets here right now. And this is a new moon that is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is currently retrograde in your 6th house of health, habits, routine, pets, coworkers, and all that stuff. So you're probably reassessing, am I going to reconnect with people I used to work with at holiday parties? Am I networking and trying to find a new job? Am I going to be able to maintain my health habits while I'm kind of socializing and working with other people? And this is a new moon where it's basically reminding you that you have to focus on your goals. You have to have good community around you. You have to be really optimistic, be surrounding yourself with people who are movers and shakers and people who are busy and productive and people who are healthy. Okay, I think that's really the key. Now, the downside is that you're one of the signs that this new moon is going to square Saturn, your traditional ruler. It's also in conjunct or quincunx Uranus, your modern day ruler. So it's kind of rubbing you all the wrong ways. Now, don't fear, air and fire fuel each other. So you are going to see that there is some slight sextiles to Pluto in your sign. And if you're a later degree Aquarius, you'll see a sextile. So you can work with it. You can be a little bit more detached and more matter of fact and aloof. And maybe not take some of the in conjunct or the square so personally. But I think that with that square, this is going to be kind of highlighting where there's group ideals versus reality. And this is going to be about whether or not you're feeling supported, you're feeling valued by other people. This is maybe about having a little bit more empathy in certain social relationships. And certainly, you know, this is going to be a good time to do something with other people. So getting together with other people. But that Uranus in conjunct or quincunx means you got to get out of the house. You have to go where the people are. There could be some changes in your home life with your family, some disruptions. You're like, I don't want to host here. I'm going to go to their house. You can also feel like this is really a time where it's important for you to be embracing collective quirks and having like a unique kind of cast of characters around you that come from all different kind of walks of life. Obviously, Sag is a variety of different cultures. So mixing and mingling with people who are going to have your same perspective, your same views and same ideals is good. And it looks like you're just wanting to see, are people going to show up for me? Are they going to value me? Am I, you know, needing to work through some of my scarcity mindset with Saturn and Neptune in the 2nd house, some of my financial challenges, some of my limits when it comes to my self-esteem. And you're going to see that friends of all walks of life are going to show up and they're going to say, you are good enough. You are worthy enough. You do deserve this. You just have to put yourself out there with those types of people. So my advice for you guys, or what I actually see happening, is that likely you'll see over the next 6 months, there is going to be a huge shift in the people who you're around. And I don't know if this is the people you work with. I don't know if this is your friendships. I don't know if you joined a new group or, you know, some kind of association. The 11th house is also second to the 10th. So this is money that comes in. So it looks like because of networking or connections or collaborations, maybe even new goals that come online with your finances, through that optimism and support, it's going to help you push your way out of some limiting kind of beliefs about your value or about your financial situation. So watch for these breakthroughs happening with your social group. I think that destiny is definitely going to be kind of flowing in the right direction. And this is the time that you guys want to definitely write out your intentions, maybe do it with a group, and definitely burn them and release them so you can bring in more stability and self-esteem. All right, so let's see what the cards say for Aquarius and Aquarius rising for this new moon in Sagittarius. The card that I got for you is the 5 of Swords, which is interesting because I could feel like there could be this sense of you going, why isn't anybody fighting for me? Or like, why isn't anybody standing up for me? Or why don't they have my back? And I've heard from a lot of Aquarius risings, this has been more in like a work sense, which makes sense because of Jupiter. But I'm going to remind you guys, you're not at work to make friends. You might think so, but the Mercury retrograde you just had taught you that. The Jupiter retrograde is teaching you that you're there to prioritize work and productivity. And it's not that you can't get on well with people at work, but not everybody's going to have each other's back. And it can be like a dog-eat-dog kind of environment. I do think that I would be trying to move away from some of the conflicts and the dilemmas that can kind of come up in group dynamics and not be taking it personally, rather than trying to fight fire with fire, being like, okay, you're entitled to your perspective. That's what you did. This is what I did. We still got to work together, even if we don't agree. And a lot of the Mercury, Venus, Sun, square Saturn in your sign is saying the same thing. Yes, you might feel like you're being overlooked or slighted, but I feel like it's important to still connect and work together and find a way to overcome this. Because in the end, here in the new year, when Saturn and Neptune leave your second house, it's going to leave you with a blessing. So maybe you have switched apartments, maybe you've switched jobs, maybe you've switched friend groups. But I think you're going to actually come out the other side of this feeling healthier, feeling more productive, and also feeling better valued. Good luck, Aquarius. And my Pisces and Pisces risings, you are going to be experiencing a new moon in Sag, taking place in your natal 10th house of career, reputation, and, kind of like your public standing. If you have anything 27, 28, 29 degrees of Pisces, buckle up, because this is going to be a new moon that's going to be squaring you. I think just Pisces in general, knowing that you've got planets squaring the North Node in your first house, a South Node in your 7th house of relationships, and then Saturn and Neptune in your first. Well, this is what professional dreams are made of, and it's going to take a lot of hard work and dedication over the next 6 months to get to where you want to go, but I'm confident you can get there. Now, when you have a new moon in the 10th house, this is about setting intentions revolving around, am I launching a new business? Am I proposing something? Am I going to be going for a new job, a higher position? And it's about visibility, and all of that is feeding off of Jupiter, which is the ruler of this new moon, sitting in Cancer in your 5th. Now, Jupiter also rules your chart traditionally, and it's retrograde right now. So you're reevaluating what career moves are going to make me happy. What can I create or put out there that's going to bring me success? How can I be more optimistic and love what I'm doing? And if you already love what you're doing, it's about loving what you're doing and maybe trying to still stay in love with what you're doing amidst what might feel like a very chaotic work season. Now, obviously, you're going to see that Jupiter is still in a trine to Saturn. So if you're steadfast with your goals and your beliefs and what you're willing to create, you can make magic happen. We also see that this new moon is squaring Saturn. So this could be heavy responsibilities, never-ending work, bosses having expectations, having to be out in the public, really pressing down on you and really saying, are you sure you want this? It's almost like it could be too much of a good thing, honestly. And the squares to Neptune can make you question whether or not you're, seeing things so clearly, or if you're feeling energetically depleted, or if there is a sense of you feeling like you're going mad because there's so much happening at work. So I think that you may find that there is like this sense of your ambition dissolving a little bit. And really, this is because you have to rebuild something about your career with faith. It's about finding something that you love that you can do that's not going to, be energetically or emotionally depleting. I think that if this were me, I would know that I'm in for 6 months of having to show up, being dedicated, being on time. I would be practicing a lot of appreciation and gratitude for having as much work as you have on your plate. And I know when you're in the middle of it, you can't quite see that. But guys, some of the stuff that I'm hearing from people, the clients that I'm talking to, it's like people who are employed right now should be incredibly grateful and very humble for their job. And I would be not complaining about the amount of work you have if you're a Pisces rising, because I think it's going to keep coming. And I think it's only going to get better and better. Now, you still have to show up with Saturn, Neptune in the North Node here. You also see Mercury squaring the North and the South Node, which rules your 7th. So that means that you might be working with clients. Maybe there's going to be important partnerships. There's going to be launches. There's going to be proposals, meetings that are really going to determine what direction your career is going to go in. I think that this is about a professional pivot, and it's more about getting into alignment with something that more aligns with your professional truth. I think with Saturn and Neptune direct, it means that it's really clarifying your calling and figuring out what your calling is and what your purpose is. There can be some really prominent partnerships that can be very valuable, that can be playing out on the world stage. And there could be some major changes in status where Now you are going from, you know, being a employee to being a business owner, and that's the change. Or you're going from working by yourself to being a part of a business partnership. That is the change. Juno and Venus. It can also mean some of you guys are possibly making some big changes to your professional status. So, nope, we're no longer married, you know, or we're no longer working together, or, you know, we're no longer kind of affiliated with each other. I'm going my own way. And you may see that some of the professional changes are kind of blended into, you know, private or kind of like romantic relationships. And that will also kind of unravel over the next 6 months, showing you that maybe you have emerged stronger, wiser, and more independent, but giving you an opportunity for renewal at work. So if you're looking for a new job, you want to rebrand, if you're wanting to, you know, launch something, it's going to require a lot of commitment and patience, but likely I think it's something that you're going to be able to get done. So let's take a look and see what the cards say for my Pisces and Pisces risings on this new moon in Sagittarius in their 10th house. What are the predictions here? Ooh, that one wanted to come up. Oh, wow. The card that you get is the Four of Wands. This is the marriage card. So professional merger, romantic merger, changing of name, changing of status, right? But important meetings, celebrations even. And I feel like it's about celebrating the wins, you know, celebrating what you have been able to accomplish. Look at Jupiter retrograde in your 5th house. Maybe there were some things that you just started off doing because you loved it and then it took off. And now you're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Delegate. I think a lot of this is about delegating as well. And if you feel like there's too much work on your shoulders, that square to Saturn is really highlighting where you have to work together as a team with other people. But I think this is about really celebrating how far you've come, but don't slow down, don't lose the momentum, keep pushing forward, and watch for these big professional breakthroughs that are going to emerge from this new moon. All right, guys. Well, that was the new moon in Sagittarius. Very fiery ride. We are going to see how this is going to just be quite wild in December. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you see this new moon as kind of like your cosmic green light to obviously dream bigger and trust the path ahead, even if it doesn't look so clear. So if you guys like these videos, you want to see more of them, please do click the bell button below and subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and share this video, and consider leaving me a comment below. Let me know what degrees in your chart this is triggering. What have you learned about some of the Saturn-Neptune squares, and what your rising sign is? I like to hear the feedback and how this plays out. And you guys can even come back to this video in 6 months' time and see how all of this unfolds. Now, if you guys like my content and if you like to learn astrology, don't forget to check out my last day of my sale on all my astro courses. I teach you all of the techniques that I use for interpreting natal charts and also transits. Click the links below at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. And if you want to book a session with me to get insight into 2026, I'd love to work with you. I am now taking new private clients for people who want to work with me on a 6 or a 12-month basis. Check out all of the links below, and I hope you guys enjoy this new moon in Sag. I'll see you soon.